So, good afternoon, everyone. This is the mentor Hamber Kliman, and I just want to welcome you to my YouTube channel. Now, listen, I have a very important exam practice question which I want you to look at under trigonometry. And of course, this question will carry 8 marks. Now, if at all maybe you are having challenges and you would want to register for personal lessons, consider registering at HC Academy for online sessions, and make sure that you just inbox me at this particular number plus 26 0777 66 40 46 on WhatsApp. You WhatsApp that number, I'll be able to respond to you. Now, we have this trigonometric question where they are saying we express sine 4x in terms of sine x. Students have been having quite a number of challenges, especially when questions are given with a very high angle of that particular manner. How do you go about solving such a question? Well, tricky but very simple. We have been given sine 4x, right? But before you go anywhere, you remember that whenever you are dealing with a sine, right, this is just the same as, from our formula, this is just the same as sine a plus b, right? And if the angle is a plus b, then that implies that this is the same as sine the angle a, cosine the angle b, and then plus, this time around we start with cosine the angle a, and then sine the angle b. We know this formula. Now, because sine a, cosine b, this time around we have cosine a, sine b, you will discover that we just have basically the same thing. Okay? We just have like the same thing. So at the end of it all, if you do your calculations properly, you're going to discover that at the end, if the angle, okay, if you make the angle in here, let's say your b this time around becomes to equal to a, then that implies that you're going to have, because a double angle only happens when a is equal to b, right? That's one thing that you must be able to understand. No wonder why you call them double angles. The angle has now doubled. It's one and the same thing, but 2 times. So, if b equal to a, then this time around, the formula becomes different. It's gonna be sine, now this time around, our b has now become equal to a. Then it means that we're going to have our sine a, right? Cosine a. Then even the other end will start with cosine a, sine a, right? Now, if this is the case, this part and this part have actually become the same. They are equal. And that implies that they become like terms. Henceforth, sine, what is a plus a? A plus a is 2a, and that is going to equal to 2 sine a cosine a. And this is why you get the double angle. Sine to a is equal to 2 sine a cosine a. Now, it is this property or identity that we are going to use to solve this particular question. Okay, so let me just write it somewhere. Okay, so we have sine to a is equal to 2 sine a cosine a. Okay, now let me wrap my board. Wow, it's very interesting, guys. Very interesting. Now, you have the identity. I've showed you where the identity actually comes from. Under personal tuitions, I showed where all the identities come from. Now this time around, we will need to take this sine 4x into a non-trigonometric expression. We know that this is a 4x. So what is our A? What is our B? Our A can actually be 2x. Our B is also going to be 2x. So this time around, we are going to have sine 2x plus 2x, and that is going to equal to, from the same formula, this time around we just go direct. So it's going to be a 2 sine 2x multiplied by cosine 2x. We know this is the identity I have used, right? Now from here, we know that sine 2x is just the same as 2 sine x cosine x, right? Then we also know that cosine, because they are saying we express in terms of sine, and that implies they don't want us to use anything that is related to the cosine. They don't want us to use anything related to the cosine. So because they don't want us anything related to the cosine, we are going to use a trig identity which is going to be related to sine. So what trig identity is connected to cosine 2x, but it's entirely sine? You will discover that the trig identity is simply your 1 minus 2 sine squared x. These are the tools that we're going to use entirely, and then we're going to get whatever we want. So this is going to be sine 4x is going to equal to 2. Where there is this guy here, I'm going to replace with my formula, so it's going to be 2 sine x cosine x, like that. Then here entirely I'm going to replace with 1 minus 2 sine squared x, like that. From there we're going to have sine 4x is equal to 2 multiplied by 2 is going to be 4 sine x cosine x. Then this is going to multiply by 1 minus 2 sine squared x. So what is 1 multiplied by this? Then we're going to have 4 sine x cosine x. 1 multiplied by the other end, it's going to be 8 minus 8. Then sine cubed x, then cosine x, like that. Okay. Now when we reach there, when we reach here, we can actually do something there. Okay. If we want, we can factorize. We can factorize the equation. Okay. So when we factorize the equation, what is going to be common? So what is common here is simply 4. Okay, 4 is common. Sin x is also common. What else? Cosine x is also common. This is going to be 1 remaining there. Then we're going to remain with 2 sine x. Sine squared x, like that. Now if you want, we can take the cosine x on the other end, like that. Okay. So if we take the cosine x on the other end, then it implies we are going to have 4 sine x. Okay, then I'm going to have 1 minus 2 sine squared x. Then we can put our cosine x there. Now look at this. The question is saying in terms of sine x. So what we're going to do, we're going to try to use an identity. Let's try to use an identity. So the identity we are going to use is going to be like this. Remember that sine squared x plus cosine squared x is equal to 1. So cosine squared x is equal to 1 minus sine squared x. So if we square root this guy, also find the square root of this guy, meaning cosine x is going to equal to the square root of 1 minus sine squared x. So this is going to be 4 sine x, open bracket, 1 minus 2 sine squared x, square root of 1 minus sine squared x. And this becomes our final answer. Okay? This is how you solve this particular question. Easy way. If you found this video interesting and helpful, consider subscribing and also hitting the like button. Thank you so much.